If you're running multiple campaigns within a Google Ad account, then this video is for you. So in today's video, I want to talk about the almost simplification of your Google Ad account, which potentially will make you more profitable. So what I'm seeing more and more in 2026 is a lot of Google advertisers are running too many campaigns within the group. And what happens to the campaigns is we don't put enough budget into those campaigns, which means we're not allowing, first of all, Google's AI to learn, but also us as advertisers, the opportunity for us to optimize the campaigns based on data. Now, remember, it's data driven, so we need to make sure we're getting enough data back. But if we, say, have 10 campaigns running within an account, and these campaigns have small budgets, it can be very difficult for Google's AI to learn. And on top of this, for us to really optimize our campaigns. So what we need to understand is sometimes, and I know this may sound strange, less is more with Google Ads. The less campaigns you run, the more profitable your ads can become. So we need to understand how we can implement those strategies into our overall Google Ads. And if we can really just simplify what we're doing, we're going to make sure that we're spreading our budget not too thinly. We're focusing on the one or two campaigns that are profitable, and then potentially we can then look to scale at a later date. But like I said, I want to jump into a little presentation I've created where we can actually just visually go through some of the concepts and ideas that I'm implementing on a regular basis, and it's becoming more and more common. So that's what I wanted to do, was to create this video just to explain some of the principles and some of the ways that I'm really making campaigns more profitable just by making them more simpler. Over complicated campaigns are not necessarily, and the majority of the time, not going to be profitable. So let's jump into this slide. So we can see we've got more complexity does not mean better results. Why overbuilt Google Ads accounts get stuck? And the reasons are, you're not only fighting Google, you're fighting yourself. So what I'm seeing, 8 to 10 campaigns being run, we can see here 17, 18, 19, 20 ad groups, not really making sense. Too many keywords. So I'm seeing campaigns with 20, 30 broad term keywords added in, way too many. And then very little optimization in the sense of adding negative keywords. The first 2, 3, 4 weeks, you should be literally adding negative keywords in almost every single day, because what we want to do is teach the Google algorithm what we want. And if we don't add negative keywords, but we have 20 or 30 broad terms, then this can be very difficult for Google to understand what we want. So start off with a lot less broad terms, maybe 1 or 2, and then optimize that. Make sure you're adding negative keywords in. Split budgets again, and fragmented data. These two kind of go hand in hand. So split budgets, just budgets running across 8, 9, 10 campaigns, very small budgets, not allowing the algorithm to learn and for us to optimize the campaigns. On top of that, fragmented data, just not enough data coming back to us over a period of sort of 30, 40, 50 days. If we don't have enough data coming back, it's going to be very difficult to make decisions, and we should be making those decisions based off of the data. So we need to make sure we have all of these things sort of removed from our campaigns. What we should be looking at is a simple, scalable account where we could potentially have a search campaign, performance max with the demand gen. But we need to understand to have these in place. And again, if we're running an e-commerce company, then potentially a shopping campaign, we need to make sure that we're understanding why we are adding more campaigns and not necessarily having multiple campaigns, but we're having the right campaigns based on our strategy. That's why it's very difficult to say one size fits all. We need to let the data lead us. So let's move on to the second slide. So what we're talking about now is, why is this happening in 2026? There's 2 major shifts that we're seeing. First of all, Google no longer targets only keywords you add. It targets the exact match. As an example, picks up variants of or close variants of the keyword that we're targeting if it's exact. So meaning matters more. So when we're creating the ad groups, it should be structured around the meaning of what you're trying to achieve. So 2, 3, 4 ad groups is absolutely fine, based around the meaning of the keywords. That's why it's good to have one campaign with multiple ad groups based upon that. So again, number 2, shift 2, conversion data is the guardrail. Smart bidding learns from conversion goals. We must make sure that our conversion tracking is working. Guys, once this is set up, and you can do this through Google. Google does offer a good service for creating conversion tracking, but once it's done, you need to add this as a weekly optimization to check this every single week because these things break and we need to make sure that we're checking these on a regular basis. So first of all, smart bidding learns from conversion signals. Absolutely correct. Match types matter less, and it's the signal of the quality and the types of keywords that you're adding in. And good data does most of the heavy lifting. So good data means that everything's working, you're optimizing, you're getting the data where you need it. If you're adding Performance Max in, Performance Max campaign, and you're running lead generation, then we know, you've probably heard this, offline conversions do make a difference. So conversion data and smart bidding work well. That's what we want to be seeing. So we don't want to see the old way of doing things. We want to make sure we're bringing our strategies from years past into 2026. So these are the kind of structures that we need to be making sure we're focusing on. So I want to give you a 4-step scaling kind of framework. So simple structure, and then expand, and then expand, and then expand. So first of all, when I'm looking at an account, the chances are I'm going to turn off a lot of the campaigns. I'm going to then focus on the data, find out what's working profitably, and then potentially have 1 or 2 campaigns working. So that could be maybe a search campaign with a PMAX campaign as an example. But this is going to be based on the data that I'm seeing. So less is more. Consolidate. Don't have small budgets running on multiple campaigns. I said this earlier, but consolidate what you have and then really focus in the budget on what you want to achieve. Look for the lowest hanging fruit. Start getting some success early on, and then you can scale the campaigns to then add in other products or services depending on your lead generation or e-commerce. When you're scaling, looking to vertically scale, which is just basically vertical scaling in Google, is just increasing the budget. Only increase it by 20% of the time. Now, if you're running budgets of sort of 30, 40, 50 below, then increasing that a little bit more is absolutely fine. So go from 30 to 50, it's fine. But anything over 50, you want to be increasing by 20% over 5 to 7 days. Look at the data. And then what you're doing is, as I come into segment 3, when you're increasing that budget, there's a couple of things you want to be looking for. As you increase the budget, is the account stabilizing? Are you then looking at CPCs? If you find your CPC is rising as you're increasing your budget, potentially you've hit a roadblock, you've hit CPC resistance, which means that Google is telling you that potentially you have an issue here. Look into your search impressions. Always be checking this, especially if you're looking to scale as an opportunity. So if you've got a high search impressions, then potentially there's not a lot of room for you to then increase the budget. But if it's low, sort of 10, 15, 20%, then potentially you have a lot of room to scale. So that's when we can bring in the vertical scaling, increasing the budget. Look for CPC resistance. Are you getting the conversions that you want? And then from there, look at the search impression share. If you are hitting a CPC resistance or you're not getting as many conversions based on the budget increase, then potentially look for something called horizontal scaling, which again is in number 4. So what this means is you're, say, going from a search campaign to then potentially adding, as an example, say a PMAX campaign or a demand gen or a shopping campaign. So it depends on whether you're lead generation, again, or e-commerce. But horizontal scaling gives you the opportunity to show your ads in different placements within your Google. But if you've got a search campaign that's working well, so you've optimized it, you've reduced the amount of campaigns, you're seeing some fantastic results, you're scaling, you've hit CPC resistance, start another campaign. This is the perfect way that we can then look for horizontal scaling to take our campaigns from where they are to where we want to be. And the chances are, if you add in a, say, PMAX campaign or a demand gen campaign, they're going to be cheaper to run as a placement because search campaigns are the most expensive. So remember, when we're optimizing, when we're running our Google ads, we're running on the data. Less is more. Look for opportunities, but base it off of data. And then you can safely then give your campaign a good chance of optimizing and moving forward. So I've given you the 4-step scaling framework that I use. It's very simple. And a lot of times what I'm doing with campaigns is reducing the amount of campaigns, the framework, because less is more. And if we can think about that when we're looking at a Google ad account, then potentially you'll find that you'll be more profitable. You're adding in your optimizations and you can scale to the moon once you have the framework set in place. You're optimizing on it, you're adding your negative keywords, you're adding in your search terms, you're looking at your call logs, you're making sure your tracking is working, because never has it been so important to make sure that the conversions coming through are as clear and we know exactly what we are tracking. We're not tracking 10 different things. We're tracking either submit lead form, a phone call, or whatever you're, or tracking a purchase if you're an e-commerce store. We need to make sure that the framework, the tracking is working. And if it is, we're going to get good, clean data. I hope this all makes sense. I wanted to just share with you um, some of the things that I'm seeing, some of the mistakes that I'm seeing. And I'll give you some examples below. We've taken an account from 400 a month below to 4,000 a month. And we've done this relatively simply using this four-step framework. And again, another account, 20,000 to 33,000 a month. Again, very simple. A lot of these accounts I reduce, I focus on what's working, and then we look for vertical scaling, and then I add in the horizontal scaling over kind of 60, 90 days. And this is a safe way of getting the very best results for your Google Ads. If you want me to look at your Google Ads or wanted to have a conversation, there's a link below. Click on the link. Let's jump on and have a conversation how we can implement this scaling framework, which is working so well in 2026 to take your campaigns from where they are to where you want to be. So if that's something of interest, click on the link below and we'll speak to you guys soon.